And we will have the statement by the, we are supposed to have the statement by the permanent secretary, but we will skip that because we don't have, they are not here. Then we will just have a keynote address by the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, that will be delivered by the Permanent Secretary, Mr.
To discuss about the Quranic memorization centers operating in the Gambia. First of all, I would like to thank the government as well as the task force that did a lot to, putting together the ideas that will help in developing the Quranic memorization centers. Alhamdulillah, they are the most needed sector that need government intervention as well as donors who are working in the field of education. According to Amana statistics, we have over 700 centers registered with Amana, with the population of 26,000 children. They are there to memorize the Quran. And that is about 3.5% of the school-going age in the Gambia. It's a big population, and then we need to help them in order to have the quality education in this sector. It's very, very important. Alhamdulillah, in terms of memorization, they are doing well because Gambia participate in the international competitions, and in many cases, our children always mark the top. Sometimes last year we scored first in the competition involve African countries, and also we have third at international level in Saudi Arabia. So Alhamdulillah, they are performing well in terms of memorization, but they need more, they need help, because in terms of the national curriculum and also the life skills that they need for their life is very, very important, as happening in other countries such as Senegal. So it's a very important initiative. So we thank you very much for inviting these important people. I think the most important part of the meeting is to hear from you people, share your experience, so that we will able to move with our Quranic memorization center. It's always the parents' choice. They are the people who choose this system for their children. And despite the fact that it's not easy, very expensive, but they're always willing to pay because of the Quran. So I think the best idea is to try to help them, accommodate them in the system, so that they will get what they need in their lives. So once again, I thank you very much for your coming here, and also I thank the organizers and the State House under the leadership of the Secretary General, and we extend our thanks and appreciation to the Head of State, Mr. Adam Barrow, for his personal support to this project. On that note, I thank you very much for your kind attention. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, senior government officials, Your Excellencies, members of the Council and Diplomatic Corps, the President of the Gambia Supreme Islamic Council, Chairman of Amana, members of the Traffic Inspection Task Force, the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to preside over this opening ceremony on behalf of the Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this stakeholder dialogue is preceded by a series of activities in our efforts to modernize and integrate traffic education in the country. Traffic is a modern and it's a learning center that enrolls children for the purpose of memorizing the Holy Quran within a given period. They recently emerged independently as a new form of Quranic teaching and learning, resulting from public demand for this type of education. The intervention of the Office of the President was triggered by a series of fire outbreaks in many of these traffic centers, particularly the one that happened on the 17th of October 2021, claiming the lives of many people. Following the incident, an investigation into the matter and an inspection task force was sanctioned by the Office of the President to assess the conditions of all boarding schools as to whether they comply with the standard of care, appropriate infrastructure, adequate safety precaution to avert a recurrence of such an accident. However, the inspection task force also investigated ways to restructure the Tafis boarding school towards providing not only Quranic memorization, but also quality and relevant basic education. This implies government support in developing and modernizing the facilities, expanding the traffic curriculum. These include other languages and functional skills, science and technology, as well as mathematics. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the inspection task force visited a total of 136 traffic centers across the country in May 2022 and August 2022, and a report submitted to the Office of the President showed that the visits covered 33% of the 418 traffic centers registered under Amana. This report further revealed, among other things, the following: high social demand for Quranic education provided in the traffic center, as evident in the significant number of out-of-school children enrolled in these centers. A total enrollment of 26,027 students, of which 21,822 are male and 4,199 female, including the day students. Number two, the second revelation was that there exist problems in the management of the centers, with a significant proportion of the school governance structure not available or not fully operational. The third was that the traffic centers generally have poor infrastructure. Only 34% of the school visited have improved building infrastructure, and therefore, proper care required for children was compromised, as there are serious congestions in many of these centers, with some of them located in private compounds without adequate rooms, classrooms, and toilet and sanitary facilities. The fourth observation was that the classrooms and dormitories were badly constructed, with some of them with no emergency exits and inadequate windows, resulting in poor ventilation, particularly in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and other communicable diseases such as tuberculosis. The fifth observation was that fire and safety precautions and first aid service were not in many of these TAFI centers. There were neither first aid boxes nor knowledge of how to manage accidents and emergencies. Sixth observation was that food service provision varied. Many TAFI's boarding schools do not have kitchen, and some of the schools' authorities are able to provide food on the table for these school children. In some cases, children are asked to go home and fetch for themselves in terms of food feeding. The seventh observation was that healthcare and sanitary were generally poor. I think this we've already mentioned that. The dormitories, the toilet facilities, the washrooms were poorly kept. There were few beds in most of these boarding schools. Some of the kids slept on the floor. And this was of real concern to the executive, particularly the president himself, President Adama Barrow. Water sources were inadequate. Even though 60% of the TAFI centers were with improved water source, availability of adequate safe water was not readily available. There were no staff recruitment policy, thus compromising adherence to rules and regulations, which was also identified. The teachers are not properly trained, and therefore they do not have pedagogical knowledge of teaching and caring for children. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this being the case, the government of the Gambia therefore decided to intervene to provide the much needed support to these TAFIs to offer quality and relevant chronic knowledge under a conducive environment as envisaged in the following declarations. The UNESCO World Education Forum in Dakar, Senegal in April 2000 called for creative, safe, healthy, inclusive, and equitable resource educational environment conducive to excellence in learning with clearly defined levels of achievements for all, unquote. The Sustainable Development Goals, the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, and our own National Development Plan all call for quality education for all our children. Some of the guiding principles for education promulgated in the Education Policy 2016 to 2030, are non-discriminatory and are all-inclusive provisions of education underlining gender equity and targeting of the poor and the disadvantaged brackets of our population. So as a government, we cannot ignore the responsibility to ensure that the children are lifted from these deplorable conditions and provide the necessary support to them. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that the government of the Gambia, through Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, has strong partnership and cooperation with Amana, and we really thank them for their support. We recognize the efforts of Amana in coordinating TAFI centers since the year 2019. This national dialogue will offer an opportunity for us all to understand how our sister country, the Republic of Senegal, is faring in its efforts in modernizing and integrating the traditional Dara in that country. You will also hear the outcome of our regional consultations with the head of Tafik institution throughout the country. As participants, therefore, you are kindly requested to provide feedbacks on how to address the findings in the inspection report that we have conducted in 2022. Validate and improve the recommendations of the findings of the study to the Republic of Senegal regarding their modernization and integration process. Provide your views and inputs with regards to the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education Amana proposal on restructuring, organizing, and preparing curriculum for TAFI centers in the Gambia. Finally, suggest means and strategies of mobilizing resources to accompany this process. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with these few remarks, I wish you a very successful deliberation, and I hope that the outcome of this dialogue will be translated into concrete action plans. I thank you for your kind attention.
Tahfiz as the center of learning, memorizing Quran. It is a new form of educational system that is emerging, which is result from the public or social demand, as indicated by the also by the Secretary General of Amana. The office of the intervention of the Office of the President was triggered by a series of 5 incidents, which a lot of people know, especially the one that occurred in 2021, where 10 students, actually lose their lives. That is because of the, poor condition. As we have said, there is no exit route. The moment the fire came, children cannot exit. So after the investigation, formal investigation, the President's office has set up the task force to look into the safety standards, of Tahfiz. But the task force go beyond to look at, not only the safety standard, but how Tahfiz can be used as a means of providing quality basic education. He mentioned actually the inspection report indicating that 33% of the Tahfiz institutions were visited. Actually, we need a clarification here. Like he said, 418, but that's only boarding, as he said. The ones that are boarding actually constitute 418 as per the 2021 data collection by Amana. But there are students who centers that are not residents in the center itself, and that totals about 700, as the Secretary General has said. So currently we have 26,027 in the students, and the problems that he has enumerated is indicated, poor management structure, infrastructure, there is no proper care of the students, there are issues of security and safety, and the health care of students, water source is a problem, teachers are not trained. Obviously, if teachers are not trained, they would not have proper pedagogy and also proper care. So this has been a big concern to government, and it has also reminded government of its obligation, especially to the international instruments like the UNESCO Declaration the Sustainable Development Goals, the Continental Strategy for Education, Continental Education Strategy for Africa, and also the National Development Plan. These are, instrument documents that the government have made very big commitment that it will provide, education for all, quality education for all. Coming down to even the education policy of the Gambia, which calls for inclusive quality education for people. So definitely with this number in the TAFIs, and they are chosen by the parents, they cannot be ignored. So I think he also mentioned the partnership with Amana, because of course, the Ministry of Education has a very strong partnership with Amana, from madrasa education to Tafis education, and it recognized the effort of Amana to try to coordinate the Tafis education. So in terms of our role as participants, we need to, we'll have the opportunity to understand what actually obtains in Senegal, how they modernized and integrated their traditional data, also the dialogue that took place, the program that emerged from that dialogue. We will hear that. So, according to the Secretary General, we need the participants to provide feedback, and to also validate and improve upon the recommendations of the study tour. Because when you go for study somewhere else, you see what they do, you try to do something better. I think that's what the Secretary General is alluding to. So we don't have to, we're contented with what happened in Senegal, but we need to develop something that we think is better than what we have found in Senegal. So we need to provide our inputs into the plan, the structure, the curriculum that is going to be presented. I think in the overall, this is what the Secretary General have tasked us. Let's validate the recommendations. Let's put our inputs. How Tafis education can serve as means of providing quality education so that the graduates, people from Tafis, would not be at a disadvantage. So I thank you very much, Mr. P.S., for that very suitable remarks on behalf of the Secretary General, and by extension, please extend our sincere thanks to her for letting you to read out her speak on her behalf. I know she's here with us in spirit, because I personally, the task force, have had continuous interactions with her, and her keen interest in developing in this Tafis education is well known to some of us, because she personally actually has been involved, questioning us, how far you are, let's do this, let's do that. And she served as a very good link between the task force and the president himself. And we thank also the president for his commitment, as noted in the speak. He is really very much concerned, and he actually is looking forward to the outcome of what our deliberations here.
And then most importantly of all the activities is the approval granted for the putting in place of a state-of-the-art facility, Tahfiz facility, in each of the regions of the country by His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia. So subsequently, a study to the Republic of Senegal was recommended, cognizant of the fact that the Senegalese government has intervened into a partnership with the traditional Islamic education centers. So in this study too, a lot of lessons has been learned, but then we selected 9 points, nine lesson areas, which we thought are very important from the studies that we conducted. So as it reads, the Senegalese government intervention into and partnership with the traditional Islamic education centers known as Dara are noted. The following 9 points are important lessons. So the first lesson is that the rationale for government intervention into the traditional Islamic education program was noted to be the public demand for Islamic or Arabic education. So the public demand for tahfiz or Islamic education is a common reality between both the countries, that is the Gambia and Senegal, as there are quite a good number of tahfiz across the country, which are mostly or all set up by individuals and communities. The inspection report reveals that, or during the inspection, we have not come across not even one center that was set up by the government. Probably there could be, but we have not come across one. All of the centers that we visited were put in place by individuals themselves and the communities. So therefore, the government's ongoing intervention into tahfiz education is justifiable, not only because the government has acceded to international conventions, as the previous speakers indicated, but also the government, the people are there, the government is there for the people. The government should actively invest and intervene in issues that affect the lives and aspirations of the citizens. So moving on to lesson number 2 is that government has developed, that is the Senegalese government has developed policy, plans and projects with a mission to organize, modernize and integrate traditional Islamic education program known as DARA, and the mechanisms used by government to mobilize resources from multilateral and bilateral partners such as the World Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the Qatar Foundation for implementing the plans. So what is important to note here is that the Senegalese government were able to get to where they are today in their intervention because of sufficient financial support that they were able to get from these partners. So in recognition of this indispensable financial support and partnerships, our Senegalese counterparts were full of praise for our late Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Badara Aliou Diouf, may Allah bless his soul, for the significant role he played in ensuring that the government of Senegal were able to secure the necessary funding for the integration during his time at the Dakar World Bank office. So moving on, the third lesson we learned was that government supports the development of infrastructure and curriculum for the modernization and integration of DARA centers through funding and collaboration with the traditional DARA and their engagement in the monitoring of teaching and learning. So before the Senegalese government intervention into the DARA modernization, to a large extent, the Senegalese DARAs were faced with a challenge of infrastructure and a lack of a unified and harmonized curriculum. So the first phase of their intervention would then target the challenge of infrastructure and the development of a unified curriculum. So they were not only able to put in magnificent structures for the DARAs, but they were able to achieve a unified and harmonized DARA curriculum. So moving on, the fourth lesson we learned is that the Senegalese government implements endowment projects in the identified DARA institutions, building house complex for them to rent in order to ensure financial sustainability of the centers. So again, aside from the infrastructure for the DARAs that were used as dormitories and classrooms, they were also able to put in place structures that would serve as a continuous source of funding for the day-to-day running of the DARA centers. So, the resources that they will generate will go towards the day-to-day running of the DARA, which includes feeding, provision of learning materials, beds and beddings, amongst other things. Education of foreign language, French, sciences and technology, and the synergy between the curricula of traditional DARA and modern conventional education to provide quality basic, secondary, and university education. So the intention in this arrangement was that to equip the children in the Dara with conventional skills alongside their Quranic memorization and Islamic knowledge objectives. So with this arrangement, they were able to achieve what is known as different entry, same exit policy for both their Dara, which is synonymous to our Tahfiz, their Franco-Arab, which is synonymous to our Madrasa, and their conventional schools, respectively. So that is to say, 3 different children can enter each either through the Dara, that is the Tahfiz, the Franco-Arab, which is the Madrasa, and the conventional schools, whilst they will all have the opportunity to meet and exit at the university. So also we learned that there are 2 forms of Islamic education initiatives in Senegal. The first one is the Dara, which is the Tahfiz, and the Franco-Arab institution, which is synonymous to our Madrasa. So sections have been created within the ministry for coordinating each of them. The likes in the Gambia are Madrasa and Tahfiz. The 7th lesson is that the structure within the Ministry of Education supporting the integration and modernization are 1, planning, 2, teacher training and professional development, 3, administration, and 4, communication and partnership. The last 3 are created for the implementation of the Dara program. What we realize here is that the Gambia has an edge over the Senegalese counterparts, because the Gambia, we have a manner. So, which has also been a lesson for the Senegalese that they proffer as a recommendation to their government. The lesson number 8 is the issue of child care, prevention of corporal punishment, safety and well-being of children are addressed through teacher training and infrastructural design. You see the issue of corporal punishment, harassment or undignified treatment of children in such centers is a common practice, especially both in the Gambia and Senegal. So the eradication of this practice by the Senegalese authorities is a great achievement. And if the Senegalese can achieve it, we can achieve it too as Gambians. I have a very limited Islamic knowledge, but I do know that Islam really frowns on corporal punishment, harassment, or undignified treatment of children. It is believed that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never abused or rebuked or harassed anyone, talk less of children. A classical example is that where Anas ibn Malik is reported to have said that, by Allah, I served the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 10 years, but he never even said to me, "Uff." He never harshly asked why I did not do a certain thing or why did I not do a certain thing. So really, we really need to work on the issue of corporal punishment. So lesson number 9, as I already said, the Senegalese model has what we call the different entry, same exit policy. So but what we realize with this is even more advantageous for the students in the Dara than the conventional schools, because they will not only achieve their Quranic memorization objectives, but they will be able to have conventional and life skills. So as a result, children in the Dara enter at the age of 5 years, and spend 8 years in 3 stages, and then sit to primary completing examination along with other students in the conventional schools. So the stages are as follows. Stage 1, 3 years exclusive devoted to the Quran and religious in practice. Stage 2, 2 years to complete the rest of the Quran, religion and introduction to conventional subjects. Stage 3, 3 years on revision of the Quran, religious studies and conventional subjects of the school's curriculum. 4 years of upper basic known as college in Senegal with the rest of the students. This is the stage where the students in the Dara stream integrate with those entering the conventional stream. The students then have the option to either follow the conventional curriculum or the Franco-Arab of Arabic or French, or third, different specialization in Islamic education. So with these lessons learned, we as a team brainstormed and we were able to come up with recommendations that we proffered to the government of the Gambia for their consideration and possible appropriate actions. So some of these recommendations would include the construction of a purposely designed facility in each of the regions of the country for the children whose parents have chosen that kind of education to receive better quality care, well-being, and education. To this end, special appreciation and gratitude is extended to His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, for this unprecedented and laudable initiative of granting approval for the establishment of such facilities. Also, this recommendation is premised on the fact that there will be a huge financial burden of the government of the Gambia and potential partners should the government choose to help or invest in the modernization of individual TAFIs. So hence, we reached this recommendation for the setting of this state-of-the-art facility in each of the regions of the countries. However, this does not in any way mean the closure of the existing centers. To the contrary, it will serve as a model and a benchmark for the existing centers as well as the upcoming ones. So our recommendation too is to develop a harmonized Ta'afiz curriculum whilst creating synergy between the different Islamic or Arabic education settings, that is the madrasa and Ta'afiz, and the conventional school curriculum, so that presidents, scientists, engineers, medical doctors, lawyers, teachers, accountants, business managers, etc. will be produced from among the children who would have started their education through the traditional Islamic centers, which is the different entry points and same exit policy. So the inspection report has revealed that different TAFIs in the Gambia operate a different curriculum, which is also known as manhaj in Arabic. So we have found out that in the inspection that different TAFIs owners will operate on the manhaj of where they've studied, be it from Libya, from Egypt, from Kuwait, from Saudi Arabia, and the likes. So hence there is a need for the development of a unified curriculum. This was actually the case with the madrasa before the development of a unanimous curriculum, thanks to the efforts of prominent Islamic scholars in the country, the likes of the late Abu Bakar Sonko, the likes of Al-Haji Bandin Drame, may Allah bless their souls, may the like of Al-Haji Esa Dabo, Imam Abdullah Toure, Imam Abdullah Fati, amongst other prominent scholars in the Gambia. So recommendation number 3 is for the development of a minimum standards for the operation of a TAFIs and strengthen the monitoring of compliance. So the inspection has also revealed that many of the TAFIs owners are not aware of the standards and the regulations for the establishment or operation of a TAFIs. As we already established that there is a public demand for Quran and Arabic education, which is usually the driving force for the establishment of such centers. So most people are really carried about that drive, that desire for Islamic education, so much so that they don't pay attention or they are unaware of the regulation and standards that is required for the establishment of a TAFIz. So development of such a standard would not only inform us the requirements such as the building infrastructures and the facilities, the safety and security, health and sanitation, amongst other important regulations. But it will also be a way of the existing ones to be obliged to, or they will be supported to conform to the state standards.